Alright, what's up, YouTube? It's your boy. Um, this is gonna be Carl Smith day 4. I'm gonna do one more. Unfortunately, I'm gonna press this before I start the video. I'm gonna do 5 days instead of 15. I know we're getting close to the end of the year, and I couldn't do the full 15 like I promised a couple videos ago, and yeah, I don't know. I couldn't promise it. Just couldn't think of content ideas, and most of the days fell through because I was busy throughout the couple of days. I would try to do stuff, which is unfortunate. But yeah, we're gonna do 5 though. So tomorrow will be my last, and yeah, all right. Let's get into the video. All right, I am making this video to say about the whole Faze stuff that happened last night and yesterday, and talk about Faze in general as a viewer of Faze since 2015 all the way to now, basically 10 years. Um, it's been great as a Faze viewer, but like how the boys did yesterday, I also tweeted on my Twitter. I'm officially gone as a Faze viewer. Yeah, I'm officially gone. I'm gonna be following the boys wherever they do and what if they're gonna start a new org or not. Whatever they're gonna do, I'm gonna follow suit because I feel like what was behind the scenes was kind of bad, and obviously, I'm hoping when they talk about it, how they got through. Obviously, I saw Max's stream last night. It's talking about the whole situation, how everything was behind the scenes was pretty bad, and everything. I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes for them. Obviously, even as most of the other viewers who was seen, they didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. They didn't know about the whole stuff that was going behind the scenes, that they were not getting paid, or they were locked by like 20% and stuff like that. You see on Twitter. It's on Twitter. Most of the stuff is already being leaked onto Twitter. I want to specify things, but I'm not gonna specify stuff. I'm just gonna throw the whole timeline as a viewer and how I appreciated what Faze was against the whole corporate side of Faze, and how much I now getting the information and now knowing that I dislike the corporate side than to the people I actually saw on stream and on videos in general. So this journey for me started in 2015 when Vine was just hitting up and everything, and I was getting my first like fixes into YouTube and into general YouTube that like was pretty good for me. Um, Obviously, I first like member of Faze that I like truly watched was Rug. I think I recall it was Rug that I particularly watched for a bit, and then around 2016, 2017, that's when I got into Banks. The owner at that time, he was pretty cool at the point of life before the whole allegations and the whole stuff with him. He was pretty cool. He was a guy that I thought pushed Faze to another stratosphere to the point before, well, I'm going to get into this video later, but it was him, Rise Gun before Cloud Gang like even happened as well. They were living with each other. Adapt was also there. I got into his content when he got more onto camera. When I saw him for the first time on camera, because he had content beforehand. I fully got into him like after. So him, Tifu at the time when Fortnite was like prime Fortnite. Um, I knew Jeb, I knew Swag as well. I knew the other boys that were there during that time of period before what I'm about to talk about later with the new ones. I knew them for a little bit, obviously on camera. I didn't fully go through their channels or anything and see content from them either. It was just generally just on camera with Banks and Adapts videos. That was it, and Rice. That was it. That's all I knew of them specifically. Um, and then watched Faze for like a little bit throughout that period before it switched to Cloud Gang, and then it switched back to Faze. And then it was a point around like 2018, 2019, near close to 2020. I stopped because they had a falling out with Tifu. All the first thing that like broke through that made Tifu leave, what made everything just like just crumble with Tifu and that whole situation. That made me stop watching Faze for a while, because seeing how the person, the general person outside the content, was getting harshened by the corporate side of Faze, and how the money was not coming to him like to a good amount that made him could have a good spare. So that made me leave, like stop watching Faze for a little bit, and got me into other content that was generally just different other content that I went and watched for a while. So during that time that I was not watching, I got the news. Obviously, I got this off of Twitter when I was on Twitter just looking through. I heard that Banks sold Faze, his stake particularly, but yeah, he sold Faze to a higher group that could control and everything. But he also still wanted stake in it, and he wanted to do something about it. So he let it die for a little bit. Unfortunately, after selling it, it crushed like that. People did what they did and did their own thing. Um, Comes around, obviously. After that, COVID hit. People stopped working. Um, it looked like Faze was completely dead. Around 2020, 2021, 2022, completely it was dead. AMP started to like rise. The OTK also started to rise. Other like people started to rise around then. Sidemen got a lot more. Obviously, they were popular, but they got extremely popular after the events that happened. And I bet most of the viewers who were Faze people back then in 2020 moved on and moved to Sidemen, to the other organizations that were in at this point. 100 Thieves as well. They moved to watch these other content creators that were in the space. Streaming was also a thing back then as well, but it was not as popular as it is now in 2025 and for the years back as well. It was main spot where people for people was YouTube, but again, whole buckle on everything. I don't want to talk about the whole streamy stuff yet, but it was until I think 2023, Faze Banks at the time decided to revive Faze Clan again. He decided to try to go and restart it with whole entire new group that was pushed for content. So they went searching. So Banks approached at the time that already got people. Specifically, Banks reached out to Kason. I didn't know Kason at the time. I didn't know majority of his content. I didn't know everything. But I think he joined around same time that I got myself clocked off from Face content. So I didn't know Kason was at the time before I started to grow into this content. The years I watched Face. So hearing about this, I heard about this on TikTok specifically because again I was out of the loop of Faze completely. I was watching my other content creators at the time. Faze Rogue was the only other like Faze member I have like only heard of that was still repping Faze at the time. So they so Banks went and reached out to Kason to see if he could bring in talent. So Kason went to look and found some pretty much people. Kason went and reached out to Rage. Said him stuff, said about what Faze can do for him, do for stuff. Rage agreed. Did some stuff. Again, I'm not gonna pull the whole situation how that is. I'm expecting Banks to probably say a lot more stuff about this on a Twitch stream that he said last night that he was gonna do today. So I'll get to know more information, but mainly, he reached out, said yes, to the project, and went and joined Faze. Then both Kason and Rage decided and said, "Oh, let's help each other. Let's get the whole group as it is." So, and I think also Adapt was in this as well at the same time. Again, Adapt at this time was dealing with some issues, mental issues, some bad mental health that he was going through. Stuff was like in a bad state when he stopped doing content, and I don't know, just he was just in a bad state in general. So he was MIA during the whole process, I think. So I hadn't heard from him during that time. Of course, he was fully MIA. I didn't know what his condition was. I didn't know anything about what was Adapt's thing was, what happened, and yeah, and obviously, I'm assuming that's where, and then Rage, case on, this is where I'm gonna go now. Approached Stable, Stable Ronaldo. I'm not gonna put legal names. I'm not. I'm just gonna reference them as their content names. I'm not gonna say legal names for the sake. They reached out to Stable, presented his project. Well, Stable within another org. He decided to leave that org to join Faze because Stable was a fan of Faze for 11 years, I think, as he stated. Or if it was Lacey, I don't know. It was one or the other. But Stable was a fan of Faze. He wanted to be in Faze for a long time when he was younger. It was his opportunity. He took the opportunity. And yeah. And then next person. They went and reached out to Silky. Silky got right. They talked about the project. To expect after I think a little while, I think when he accepted, and then during the time, obviously throughout the spots, Lacey, Jason were people on the internet, but people knew of them, but barely like not like to the mainstream yet, but people knew. They Jason made obviously some. He was a TikToker. He was a mainline person who went from TikTok, then to streaming, then joined Faze, and then blew up from there. With Lacey, he mainly got brought up by clicks. I was watching clicks at the time, so that's why I knew Lacey. I was watching clicks when Faze was down. I I watched clicks. I watched Cody for a very long time. Since then, obviously, because Fortnite was very popular, and obviously I was playing the game. So I was like, I need to follow someone who knows about the game so I can help myself learn a lot more. And that's where I got clicks from. That's why I still watch clicks to this day. Same with Stable as well, but mainly it was for Lacey that I knew Lacey because of clicks. So that's where I knew what Lacey was, and then it took him a little bit until he got into streaming. He went and streamed, and that's when the opportunity landed both Jason and Lacey to join Faze, join with the whole group, did a whole like montage and everything in 2023. Faze didn't. At first, people when they announced the whole group, people were not impressed. At first, I wasn't. I was impressed, but I was not fully into their content until I watched them earlier, like late 2024. I got interested in everything, but I didn't fully go into it. I only saw clips. I was interested, but I didn't know anyone from the new Faze. I didn't mention Max, by the way. They I He already said his part on his stream when he joined, why he left. I'm not gonna say his. I'm just gonna focus on the people on Twitter who said they left before, like after Max left like a long time ago. So I'm not gonna preference on him. I'm only gonna preference on the people that I knew who just left now. Um, yeah. Obviously didn't get into their content. I didn't know. I knew of them obviously on TikTok. That was the main thing that got me to knowing these boys specifically. Obviously, it took me time to reconnect with Adapt. So all the new boys, like Silky, didn't like Lacey or Jason at first, but as they got closer and bonded throughout the whole project for 2 years, they really got closer, got as the homies. But behind the scenes stuff that I didn't know beforehand, after I knew that Banks was not the complete owner at this point. I knew he still had it sold, and sketchy things was gonna happen. Like Tifu, when I originally found out about the new group, I knew this was gonna be in like another Tifu situation. Well, here we go. It happened again. So I knew from the start it was gonna be like a Tifu situation. It's just I didn't know when it was gonna happen, but it suddenly happened. But um, behind the scenes stuff were a little sketchy to me. The many times when I watched their streams after like early to like yeah, I'll say early 2025 that I fully got into like everyone's content and everything and got to learn a lot more about the new Faze boys. Of course, I only saw clips. Again, I was a TikTok viewer before I properly got myself into like knowing their content and everything. But it was kind of hard for me knowing this was going to happen in general. So I was kind of pressed at this point, of course. So during the time, obviously, Adapt was not streaming. He was still doing YouTube content. Obviously, he was still MIA. So Adapt didn't come into the picture until like a little after when the boys joined. They pushed for Adapt. He was on stream with them though on everyone else's streams, but he didn't stream himself until the boys decided to go and push for him to stream after Adapt was doing some things I can't say here. 5 days, and well, it helped him and it pushed him to be better than where he is. So it was a little after the first Face Upathon that I started to get clips of Jason, Cutie, which I knew at the time because of some other people that I knew at the time, like Pokimane, Valkyrie, um, and some other content creators that I knew of. I knew of back in the day. And stuff like that. So it took me a little bit. I didn't fully flesh into their content, like I said earlier, until early 2025. Like around April, Mayish, March, around that time, that's where I got into Jason. And then from Jason, it linked me to all the boys. And obviously, at this point, I didn't know Adapt was streaming until I got into like Jason Wee content after Sidemen put him into the charity match and the other stuff inside and everything. So that was when I fully got to know the boys. And at this point, I didn't see no streamer awards back in the day as well. I did not see no streamer awards for 2024, 2023. I didn't see anything of those regards. Because again, I was not fully tapped into the streaming world. For the streaming world, I was only tapped in to people for FIFA / EFC. I was there for 2K people for WWE 2K. I was only there for some other content creators that I follow that was from YouTube that also transitioned to Twitch. That was it. That was the only way I was only going to use my Twitch for. But now with this year, I fully got to like explore and see what Twitch was for me. So I don't know. Seeing them from where they were to now, it's absolutely insane to see everyone exceed their expectations, what they had from where they were, like teeny tiny people from Twitch to like nearly grossing 100K viewers to a lot of people. And I'm generally gonna say, I bet they're also gonna say this: they are not gonna regret joining Faze. Faze kind of helped them boost in a mutual way, but knowing the corporate side probably kind of also sucked for them, knowing that barely the corporate side were greedy, were sucky to the point that it kind of like failed to some extent. So kind of put me in a position I'm like, oh, what made my point earlier. Like I said, that this was going to be another Tfue situation. And well, bada bing, bada boom, December 25th rolls around. And look what happened. Became another Tfue situation. The greed, the fuckery of the higher ups, the corporate side of Faze, made them leave, basically. So, very excited how everything is going to go. I'm very grateful to be a viewer of everyone. Silky, Lacey, Jason, Ron, and Adapt. All their content throughout Twitch made me fall in love back in what Faze was in general, not corporate side, just as general people made me fall in love with their content and made me what I am now. Faze back then were like the blueprint of what I wanted my content to be back in the day. And most of my ideas and stuff like that kind of helped. Their ideas kind of helped me think about more stuff. Like I said before, Logan was also a kind of inspiration for me, but it was mainly also the Faze. It was mostly Faze that also kind of helped, and Sidemen that fully like nurtured me thinking, oh, I gotta get into content creation, made me what I am currently doing at the moment. With YouTube, I'm slowly going to be going into Twitch. I just got to get stuff sorted, buy some things, and soon get things sorted with Twitch and me starting streaming. But my ideal is this. Don't let multimillionaires control you. Don't let people who have greed, who will put control on you or anything, define you and what you are outside of content and inside of content, and don't make them have you being puppets, basically. And do what you do, basically, for content, but with free control. That's my advice. Say if you're going to join up org or join anything that with that in the group, make sure that you have free control and freedom to do what you want to do, and obviously you get paid, of course, but mainly have control of what your future is and what your content's going to be. And don't let other people think of what you're going to do in content space. That's all I'm going to say on this. This is also technically my sending off of what group, what phase it specifically is. And I hope everyone is good. And I hope to see the boys' opinions soon and what they got to say on the whole background and the whole behind the scenes stuff. I know Banks is about to say something about it today, but again, the all allegations, I'm probably not going to believe anything what he says. So I'm going to wait until the whole boys say on their stance, how they're going to say once they fully are out of the NDA. So I'm very excited to see how things could be, and I hope they do good with their futures. And yeah, that would be for me, and that's me done for today. Watch out for the next video. It will probably be around near close to New Year's Eve. Until then, yeah. Sorry about the whole Carlomas, the whole stuff. I meant to do 15. I'm only gonna end up doing 5. It's unfortunate, but yeah. I'll see you guys in the next video.